Tonight, President-elect Bola Tinubu visits Oba of Lagos, Rilwan Akiolu, reaffirms his promise not to disappoint Nigerians. U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria Mary Beth Leonard says the 2023 presidential election falls short of the expectations of Nigerians, urges INEC to review and address possible challenges ahead of the governorship and Houses of Assembly elections. Vice President Yemi Osibajo calls for a more united Nigeria as Most Reverend Michael Akinwale takes charge as the new Methodist Archbishop of Abuja. China announces plans to boost military spending in 2023 while warning of escalating threats. We begin from Lagos in southwest Nigeria, where the president-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, today promised not to disappoint Nigerians who have entrusted him with the country's leadership for the next 4 years. The president-elect was speaking during a visit to the palace of the Oba of Lagos, Rilwan Akiolu. It's the president-elect's first visit to Lagos after he was declared winner of the election by the Independent National Electoral Commission. He was received earlier at the airport by Lagos State Governor Babajide and other party chieftains. At the palace of the Lagos monarch, the president-elect promised to work vigorously for Nigeria. Speaking mostly in Yoruba language, Senator Tinubu, while thanking God and the people for his eventual victory, likened the primary and elections he went through to a World Cup tournament which was tricky and unpredictable. Well, the monarch on his part described the president-elect as a special breed who is destined for leadership at the very top.
We will not be used as a tool to disgrace you. I will not let you down. The journey that we embarked upon, and we have returned home with a certificate. It is like our own World Cup. And I thank you all for the effort.
Meanwhile, the United States has said that the just concluded presidential elections failed to meet the expectations of Nigerians. In a statement on Sunday, the U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, said many citizens are frustrated and angry with the results, while some others are celebrating victories they believe were hard-fought and well-earned. The U.S. envoy called on INEC to promptly address the challenges that can be resolved ahead of the March 11 governorship elections, urging the electoral body to undertake a broader review of the problems that transpired during the last elections and what can be done to fix them. She also commended Nigerians for demonstrating their dedication to democracy, asking INEC to share with the Nigerian public information about the actions it is taking. Ms. Leonard commended Mr. Peter Obi and Mr. Atiku Abubakar for their commitment to take the legal path in contesting the presidential elections, and also the president-elect Senator Bola Tinubu for acknowledging their right to do so. Vice President Yemi Osibajo is calling on political, religious and traditional leaders in the country to drive their followers toward the pursuit of unity in Nigeria. The Vice President, who was speaking at the enthronement service of the Most Reverend Michael Akinwale as the new Methodist Archbishop of Abuja, which was held at the Methodist Cathedral of Unity, Abuja, said the church is a place to deliver people from fear and oppression, as well as a place of succor, joy and encouragement. Professor Osibajo also said appointments into important positions are not just celebrations, but a call of service and responsibility to God and the people.
As His Eminence, the Prelate of the Methodist Church Nigeria, sat you on the throne, I knew that you were not blinded by the pomp and pageantry of this great occasion, but that you see this as a call to the service of God and man, and a responsibility of awful moment in our troubled country and our troubled world. Indeed, the office means that your voice must be heard and your leadership seen where there is injustice, where there is deprivation or lack. The high call of service to the gospel of Jesus Christ is a ministry to all, whether they be amongst the membership of the Methodist Church or even those of other denominations and beliefs. For indeed, as Scripture says, God so loved the world meaning men and women who belong even to other faiths, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life.
The Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar, has called on Nigerians to accept the outcome of the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections. He gave the call during the coronation of the new Emir of Dutse, Alhaji Hamim Sanusi. Our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu reports.
It is the grand inauguration ceremony of the new Emir of Dutse in Jigawa State. The event features traditional displays and a Daba procession before the new Emir receives his staff of office, in addition to an oath of office. After receiving his staff of office as the 22nd Emir of Dutse, the governor of Jigawa State addresses the gathering.
Today's occasion is festive, with everybody in joyous mood following the selection of the son of the Emir as a worthy successor to the throne. Notwithstanding, I could not help but to again commiserate and condole the family of the late Emir and the entire Dutse Emirate Council, the Jigawa State Council of Chiefs, and the people of Dutse Emirate and the Jigawa State in entirety.
The Sultan of Sokoto takes advantage of the occasion to urge Nigerians to accept the outcome of the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections.
Leadership is from Almighty Allah, given to whomever He wishes at any time He wishes, and nobody is to query Him or change what He did. There was an election recently. God Almighty did what He wishes. We should consider it as an act of God. He made the winners, and nobody can stop or change God Almighty's deed.
The Emir is delighted and appreciative to his people for choosing him as their leader.
I am honored to step into the shoes of my late father and continue his legacy of uniting our people and promoting education. I vow to work tirelessly towards achieving these goals and ensuring the growth and development of our community.
The role of traditional institutions in promoting peace and development in Nigeria is highlighted at the event.
Traditional institutions generally, not only Hausa community, the whole of Nigeria is very, very important in the sense that it preserves the culture of community, it enhances security, it promotes peace and unity in a given community.
The installation of the new Emir of Dutse is a significant event for the people of Jigawa State and the entire country, as traditional institutions play a crucial role in maintaining social harmony and promoting development. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
Well, there are obvious slips from the presidential and National Assembly elections held on February the 25th this year, many of which are highlighted in the post-election reports by different observer groups. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu wants ad hoc staff to undergo a refresher training in order to avoid delay or compromise at any stage ahead of Saturday's poll. In preparation for the March the 11th governorship election, our correspondent Dari Dawood takes a closer look at the lessons learned from the good and the not so good aspects of the just concluded presidential election.
From logistics, deployment of technology to personnel, some Nigerians believe the conduct of the 2023 presidential election fell short of standards. The result portal failed to run optimally in an election where 24.9 million people voted out of the 87.2 million people who collected their permanent voter cards, which means only 3 in 10 eligible voters turned out in that election. Voter apathy, a show of indifference towards electoral and democratic processes, isn't the only challenge in the just concluded election. There are also reports of violence and disenfranchisement.
A lot of people had problem challenges voting for the candidate of their choice, and they were technically disenfranchised during the presidential election.
Election observers from the European Union, the Commonwealth, and other bodies reported a range of problems, including failures in systems allegedly designed to aid vote manipulation.
In the Senate are as follows.
The electoral umpire seems to have learned some lessons and making efforts to correct some of these anomalies ahead of the governorship and state assembly elections.
For 423...
On the bright side, the INEC chairman insists that the February 25th election produced the most diverse National Assembly since 1999.
In the Senate, 98 out of 109 seats have been declared. So far, 7 political parties have won senatorial seats, while in the House of Representatives, 325 out of 360 seats have been won by 8 political parties.
Jo Keodumaki monitored the election. She says there's a lesson for everyone.
Most importantly, our people must keep away from fake news. They must remain peaceful at all times. We do not have any other country than Nigeria. We must never ballot with our blood.
As INEC perfects arrangement for the conduct of the governorship election, Nigerians hope that their expectations will be met through credible voting and transparent result collation processes that will reflect the will of the people by producing the most credible results. Dari Idu, Channels Television News.
The former governor of Edo State, Mr. Oshiomhole, is insisting that Governor Godwin Obaseki should not entertain fears about impeachment if he loses out in the State House of Assembly elections coming up on March the 11th. He maintains that if Mr. Obaseki had performed well as governor of Edo State, then he would not be worried about the electorate voting against his party, the PDP. The senator-elect for Edo North Senatorial District from the February 25th general election made the comments during an interview with journalists in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
Of the number of people who are contesting, how many are new members who are seeking election for the first time, and how many of them are old members who probably have been elected before? There is no truth in it. Unless if somebody feels that, or if the governor feels that he has committed so much atrocities that he's now afraid that he cannot start the rigor of a democratic governance. Because the purpose of the House of Assembly is to subject the executive to legislative scrutiny. It is not for nothing that you spend millions, if not billions, of naira maintaining a parliament. Because even in a dictatorship, the only thing that is absent is parliament. Unfortunately, in the case of Edo, over the past, under this government, there has been no parliament. So he has ruled the state like a sole administrator. So he may be haunted by guilty conscience. But as far as I know, those young men and women who are applying to go to the House of Assembly are hungry to ensure that the governor spend resources in a manner that captures the aspirations of their various constituents. Sacking the governor is not in their manifesto.
In part 2, after the break, Channels TV analyst Babajide joins us to review last week's presidential and National Assembly elections. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. President-elect Bola Tinubu visits Oba of Lagos, Rilwan Akiolu, reaffirms his promise not to disappoint Nigerians. U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, says the 2023 presidential election falls short of the expectations of Nigerians, urges INEC to review and address possible challenges ahead of the governorship and Houses of Assembly elections. Vice President Yemi Osibajo calls for a more united Nigeria as Most Reverend Michael Akinwale takes charge as the new Methodist Archbishop of Abuja. And China announces plans to boost military spending in 2023 while warning of escalating threats. The candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the just concluded senatorial election in Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, has presented a letter of complaint to the Electoral Umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission, seeking a review of the outcome of the election. Mrs. Akpoti-Uduaghan, who presented a copy of the letter to the resident electoral commissioner in Lokoja, the Kogi State headquarters of INEC, stated that most of her results in Ajaokuta and Okene local government areas were not part of the results declared by the commission.
The senatorial election, which was held on the 25th February 2023, was contested by the APC candidates Abubakar Ohere, the PDP candidate Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, and other political parties. During the election, the APC candidate who voted in Okene expressed satisfaction over the peaceful conduct of the general election, while the PDP candidate who cast a ballot in Ihima commended INEC for the use of beavers, which she said has brought sanity into the electoral process.
We are receiving reports from so many places that everything is moving on well.
Considering the activities that took place in the last election, 2019, and now, I can tell you there's been tremendous progress.
At the end of the election, Mr. Abubakar Ohere polled 52,132 votes to defeat his closest rival, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan of PDP, who scored 51,763 votes. Not satisfied with the outcome of the election, the candidate of the PDP, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, writes a letter of complaint to the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, seeking a review of the election. Accompanied by her husband, the PDP candidate submits a copy of the letter to the resident electoral commissioner in Kogi State after waiting for several hours.
Yes, the national has acknowledged it.
Good now, okay. In an interview after a closed-door meeting with the resident electoral commissioner, the PDP candidate explains that results of some polling units were not recorded for her, stressing that if those results are added and computed correctly, she will emerge the winner of the election.
If you're all here, just checked the IRF polling unit 9, Ganaja Township, where I scored 751, APC scored 105, but then they changed my 7 to 0 and recorded only 51, thereby taking 700 out of my votes away, and then increasing APC's own from 105 to 200. So just one polling unit alone is enough to declare me winner, because the difference between myself and the APC candidate is 369. So I'm hoping that the national chairman is going to stand by his words and is going to attend to our petitions promptly so that we can capitalize on the 7-day window as provided by Section 65 of the amended Electoral Act.
As the February 25th presidential and National Assembly elections continue to generate controversies, dissatisfied candidates may have to approach the various election tribunals to seek redress.
The governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, in Ogun State, Mr. Olubiyi Otegbe, has taken his campaign to Shagamu local government area of the state. At the rally in Shagamu, Mr. Otegbe says he's optimistic that the electorate will vote for him come March the 11th.
The governorship candidate of the African Democratic Party in Ogun State, Mr. Olubiyi Otegbe, is running mate Olatunde Awonuga, former Governor Ibikola Mosun. Chieftains and members of the ADC are in Shagamu local government area of the state to seek the people's votes ahead of Saturday's elections. Shagamu is one of the 9 local government areas in Ogun East Senatorial District and a major commercial hub in the state, and the residents are excited to receive the team. Mr. Otegbe assures them of a better quality of life if he is elected as governor.
This is a traditional town, and Adobo has Ododo, they are wonderful youth. I know them because I am part of them. And so we have told them that we are going to take care of them.
On his part, Senator Mosul appeals to them to vote for the ADC in the governorship and state assembly elections for a greater Ogun.
We are not here because of personal reasons. We're here because of our collective development of Ogun State. We want Ogun State to develop. You see what we did. Look at the Lower Wela Road. Look at the Ota Township Road.
The ADC team in the local government area said they will continue to take their campaigns to various houses and offices to ensure the people support the party.
In Taraba State, the governorship candidates of the All Progressives Congress, Labour Party and the Social Democratic Party have condemned the endorsement of the PDP candidate by the Christian Association of Nigeria. Expressing their grievances and disappointments at a press conference in Jalingo, the state capital, the candidates expressed their concern on the implications of the endorsement.
This joint press conference is organized by the governorship candidates of the All Progressives Congress, Labour Party and the Social Democratic Party in response to the endorsement of the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, retired Lieutenant Colonel Agbu Kefas, by the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN.
How can we all...
In addition to being disappointed, they accuse the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, of being complicit.
We were told they collect 50 million naira from him, and that's the game. They collect money from him, they will go and share the money to people, and this is the last time this will happen. It will not work again.
The people we are aspiring to govern, there are Christians, there are Muslims, there are pagans. As a matter of fact, there are atheists. These are questions for us to answer in eternity, not to be determined by man. And so we thought it worthwhile that we should come together and clarify our position. We are not candidates of any religion.
We want a homegrown politician to take over Taraba State, who knows Taraba problem, who has solution to the Taraba problem. We are not going to remove control by anybody. We are only going to remove control by our people.
Elsewhere, the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria is reacting to the allegations as the chairman explains the reasons for the association's decision.
CAN did not show any preference or any favoritism, whether for collecting money, as people allege. If it was a bargain, then all of them will have been asked to pay, and then maybe CAN will have been accused of going for the higher bidder. But none of them have any evidence of any bargain between them and CAN. So CAN will be a stupid father to collect money from her son before taking decision to give direction to the church. It's not a money business.
This is not the first time the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, in Taraba State will endorse a candidate vying for elective office. But the March 11, 2023 governorship and National Assembly elections will determine whether the endorsement will make any difference.
Among several things, the 2023 presidential election will be remembered as one of the closest presidential contests in Nigeria's history. How complicated was the race and the results? Babajide, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is indeed here to share further insight about the results of the 2023 presidential election. Babajide, it's great to have you again.
It's been a long time we were together.
Been a long time we were together, yes, exactly. Yes, and it's great to look at the presidential elections, of course, which now has come and gone. You also know that making predictions for an unpredictable, and I mean unpredictable election like ours is very tough, you know, in this part of the world. And by the way, I will say that some of your forecast, or shall I say your predictions, were accurate. So tell us, how exactly did you come to that? What metrics did you use, and what are the lessons we can learn from this presidential elections?
So for me, the most important metric was to look at the trends. I've always said it, that data is the most expensive, is the most valuable commodity in Nigeria, more valuable than even oil. And so over the past couple of weeks, what we had done here was that to provide data that gave viewers information. What we had hoped was that information would be used by viewers and the political parties to be able to draw insights. And it does seem that perhaps one of the parties really looked at all the data we shared, got the information, and was able to develop the insight. But there are three major trends. And again, this victory is not just a victory for the president, for the APC and the candidate. It's a victory for our history books. It's a victory for statistics. It's a victory for data analytics. Now, what do I mean? Let's go back to the same things we talked about 2 weeks ago. And if we take a look at the trends that have happened in our history books, in our political history books, we'll notice something that still happened in this election, the North Central. If we take a look at these trends, we'll notice that this is the 10th presidential election, and in all 10 cases, the winner always wins the North Central. Once you lose the North Central, you will not be declared president. It's not a constitutional requirement, but it's the history. No one has become president without winning the North Central.
The North Central holds the golden ace, if you have.
One of the golden aces, yes, the North Central. Let's take a look at another trend that also repeated itself the 10th time, which is you wouldn't be declared president if you do not win one zone in southern Nigeria. Again, that's not a constitutional requirement, but history has shown us this is the 10th time that is happening. For you to become president, you have to win, based on trends, one zone in southern Nigeria. And so we also see the candidate that's been declared winner winning the Southwest, even though he did not win the South-South and the Southeast. Now, perhaps the third and most important trend, which we also talked about based on history, is that everyone that has been declared president in Nigeria always wins a minimum of 3 zones. Always a minimum of 3 zones. Nobody has been declared winner by winning only 2 zones. And we see that happening in this election. Bola Tinubu of the APC was declared president. The results based on INEC's declaration showed he scored the highest in the Southwest, he scored the highest in the Northwest, and he scored the highest in North Central.
As the president-elect.
As the president-elect, exactly. And these are the trends that I kept an eye on. Kept an eye on the history books, kept an eye on data analytics. And for us, the lesson is for our leaders to know the importance of statistics and data in national planning. History repeated itself. Moreover, another history that has never failed is that whoever wins in Kwara always wins the election. And so all our history books intact, North Central history books intact. Winning a minimum of 1 region in the southern region, minimum of 1 zone in the southern region, intact. Winning Kwara, intact. Winning a minimum of 3 zones. That seems to be the formula. Even though it's not in the Constitution, but that seems to be the formula. And when we talked about it, a lot of the political parties did not take it serious, but we've seen that the results...
Well, you can't really say if they didn't take it serious or not. I mean, that would be quite subjective.
Perhaps, but if that was the goal, then we probably would have seen almost all the parties struggling to win the North Central. What we see is that it was a big break for the APC in the North Central, a big break in the Southwest, and even though it was a tough challenge across the North, the APC was able to win 3 zones.
Now, would you say that this was the toughest presidential elections ever in our history? And if so, what exactly are the indicators?
So, since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, this perhaps was the toughest election results. What we see is, if we look at our horses are back, on the average, what this election showed was the candidate of the APC was declared winner, but he only scored 37% of the total votes. Never in the Fourth Republic has a winner scored as low as 37%. In fact, it's the second lowest in our history, just behind the 1979 election when Shagari won with just 34%. This time around, Bola Tinubu scored 37% of the votes. On an average, it means for every 10 people that voted, only 4 voted for this horse. The 6 other people voted for other horses. Again, I repeat, even though that horse won, on an average, for every 10 people that voted, only 4 voted for Bola Tinubu. The 6 others voted for the other horses. But there's a number that worries me, Ayo. And that is, we've seen a declining trend in national acceptance, which we talked about 2 weeks ago, and which again happened. And if you take a look
So you're saying it's gone down again?
It's gone down again.
Wow.
It's gone down again, which shows that the president is not only losing majority of the votes, is losing acceptance in most of the states. And that has never happened in our recent history. Let's take a look at these trends, because these are the trends that the president-elect needs to focus on, how to bring people together. And look at the facts just in front of you. 1999, I talked about it, when candidate Obasanjo won. He won 28 out of 36 states. Similar results in 2003, he won 26 out of 36 states. We see what happened in 2011. Jonathan won 24 out of 36 states. In 2015, it got worse. 21 out of 36 states. And we see what happened in 2019. President Buhari only won 19 out of 36 states. Now we are in a position where the candidates won only 12 out of 36 states. In other words, it did not score the majority in more than half of Nigeria's states. That is the challenge, apart from the economic, security fixes, and social challenges we face. It is that there's a need to bring those that are dissatisfied to the table.
Which brings me to the next question. Do we really know how the factors that mostly influenced how the way citizens voted, judging from what we can see there? I mean, the numbers dwindling, over and over again.
So we did a survey to find out what factors influenced people the most during this election, and top 7 factors came out as the most important. And if you take a look at those 7 factors, here's what you find. A lot of people were influenced by the position INEC played, which included, did the materials turn up on time? Did they have confidence in the electoral body? We saw the role of ethnicity and tribe. And what do I mean? The candidate of the APC, Bola Tinubu, won the region is from, Southwest. Peter Obi from the Labour Party won the Southeast. Atiku from the Northeast won the Northeast. So we see ethnicity and tribe playing an important role in the elections. The popularity of the candidates, the most popular candidates out of all the political parties scored the highest votes. Self-interest and party bias. Do you belong to this party? Are you affiliated to this party? Who do you know that if he wins will help you? We see that influencing how people voted. The perception about the state of the nation, number 5. Voters' religious bias, number 6. And though money was in the top 3 before, money has dropped to the bottom 3. In all, the top 3 factors that influenced the results we've seen, the role of INEC, the candidate's ethnicity and tribe, and the popularity of the candidates. These top 3 factors influenced how voters chose who they would line up with. But perhaps more than this, you might want to also look at the important metrics, which is, was this election results, was the outcome and performance better than it was in 2019? And if we take a look at those facts right in front of us, if we look at what happened in 2019 versus 2023, here are the shocking facts, Ayo. The first is, in 2019, Nigeria had 101 million adults. It has grown by 6 million. We currently have 107 million adults. However, in 2019, 82 million people were registered. 2023, 93 million. That grew by 11.2 million. PVC collected, 72.7 million, 87.2 million in 2023, a growth of 14.4 million. However, despite all this growth, in 2019, 29.3 million people were accredited. This time around, only 25.2 million, a decline of more than 4 million. In 2019, total valid votes in excess of 27 million. In 2023, total valid votes just above, a little above 24 million. Again, a worse performance compared to 2019. Summary, what does all of this mean? In 2019, those that participated in the elections, what I mean by that is accredited voters relative to the adult population, 29% in 2019, it's worse in 2023. only 24%. And perhaps that important number, voter turnout, in terms of those that were accredited relative to those that collected their PVCs, in 2019, it was 40%. In other words, on an average, 4 out of every 10 persons that had a PVC voted. In 2023, the number was worse. Only 29% of those that had PVCs came out to vote.
Which is quite interesting because, you know, we talked about the coming out of young people in this year's election, and we've had a large population of young people wanting to cast their votes. But from what we see there, it appears many of them didn't really get a chance to, you know, exercise their civic
And so the question is, did the young people turn out, or did INEC fail to turn out? That again will answer this week when we look at the results of the governorship election. But the most important information is we've seen the power of data in this election, data giving us a lot of information and giving us insights, and we should appreciate that data is more valuable than oil.
So quickly, how will you summarize the results from INEC? Quickly.
Anticlimax.
An anticlimax.
Anticlimax.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll see what happens on Saturday.
We'll see what happens on Saturday. Of course, Babajide Oguso, our data analyst there. Thank you for your thoughts on the news at 10.
Pleasure is all mine.
To crime now, a provisional police officer, Sergeant Rabiu Bagubiri, and a member of a vigilante group, Shehu Chuka, have been killed by bandits in Maru local government area of Zamfara State during an attack. Well, the bandits in large numbers launched an attack on the local government headquarters on Saturday evening, forcing residents to scamper for safety, while some persons are said to have been abducted in the process. Meanwhile, the spokesperson of the command, Mohammed Shehu, told Channels Television that the police authority in the state have visited the scene and are on the trail of the bandits. Down south in Cross River State, authorities of the Niger police is warning political thugs to have a rethink in trying to disrupt the election process, as anyone caught will be made to face the law. Well, speaking while parading 16 suspects at the police headquarters in Calabar, the state police public relations officer, Irene Ugbo, explained that the suspects were picked by the police after they made an attempt to disrupt the electoral process during the February 25th, 2023 Saturday presidential and National Assembly elections in Obudu, in the North Senatorial District of the state.
We are here upon information that some hoodlums were arrested by men of the military stroke the police during the ongoing election. It's very, very unfortunate that these ones have made themselves available to be used by desperate politicians, despite our several warnings that this is an offense. These people are here. We have about 16 suspects here with us with different assorted rifles here that we arrested with them. They are going to be charged to court according to the law of the land. These are going to be used as an example to others. The governorship election is at the corner, and we don't want anything that would disrupt that election.
The SocioEconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has asked the federal government to disclose measures it is taking to obey the Supreme Court decision extending the validity of the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes till December the 31st this year. SERAP is also asking the government to publicly instruct the CBN to immediately implement the Apex Court's decision ordering an end to the cash withdrawal limits imposed by banks because such restrictions violate citizens' right to freely use their property. In a letter, the rights group explains it is an overriding public interest to disclose the details of the measures the government and the CBN are taking to satisfactorily obey the court decision. It believes this will enable Nigerians monitor and scrutinize the level of compliance with the decision by all relevant parties. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, have arrested a businessman at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Ikeja, Lagos, with 9.40 kilograms of heroin concealed in the false bottoms of his luggage while attempting to board a flight to India. In the same vein, a 24-year-old passenger en route to Oman was intercepted at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, during an outward clearance of Ethiopian airline flight attempting to export 1.924 kilograms of skunk concealed in cream tubes. Meanwhile, operatives of the NDLEA at the Tinkan Seaport, Lagos, recovered 244 parcels of Canadian loud weighing 79 kilograms concealed in medium-sized sound system speakers loaded inside 2 out of 4 used vehicles in a container coming from Toronto via Montreal, Canada. In another development, the NDLEA operatives attached to courier firms in Lagos intercepted 9 parcels of methamphetamine concealed in Duduosun soap bars en route to Europe, as no fewer than 778,190 pills of pharmaceutical opioids, including tramadol, and 270 kilograms of methylene chloride. And now to the arts. Face the Nation is a solo exhibition by Zimbabwean artist Option Yazonzi at the Pacers Gallery in Lagos. Now, this artist celebrates the beauty of African culture, especially his roots, and even encourages creatives to do the same. We'll see it on Art Review tonight.
Zimbabwean artist Option Yazonzi is the first beneficiary of an immersive cultural exchange and residency program which began in August. This exhibition, titled Face the Nation, is the outcome of that experience at the Pacers Gallery as it begins such initiatives with support from Yawoa Foundation.
Option has been with us since August for the past 2 months for our art residency program. We worked with the Yawoa Foundation to bring Option here for a cultural exchange and for him to just come here, experience Lagos, experience Nigeria, its people, its environment, and then create a body of work. And yeah, we've been working on this for a couple of weeks now, and this is the product of him being here and his inspiration.
Before moving into new media, the Harare-born artist originally studied print design with exhibitions and residencies both locally and internationally.
I basically use canvas and paper. Then I mesh them together, and then I use acrylics and oils, drawing ink. Sometimes I experiment with medias like coffee, you know, just to explore the ability. So yeah, that's how basically I produce my work. So it's just like printing and painting techniques being collaborated together.
In creating his thought-provoking images, the artist inserts the zebra print as a celebration of his roots, asserting the importance of traditional storytelling and mythology from a contemporary point of view.
Option's work is deeply spiritual. I see that in his collection of work is talking about human beings, nature, animals, and is inspired by his spiritual experience that is brought out of Zimbabwe.
For Pacers Gallery, its Novel Artist Residency program makes accommodation and studio space available to the artists for the period of production, giving them the much-needed time and space for reflection, research, experimentation, and production of new works of art.
China will increase military spending by more than 7% this year, while warning of escalating threats. It was announced at the National People's Congress, which is due to confirm President Xi Jinping's third term. Outgoing Premier Li Keqiang told the NPC that external attempts to suppress and contain China are escalating. He also said the armed forces should intensify military training and preparedness across the board. Beijing's military budget, around $225 billion, is still dwarfed by that of the United States. Yet, analysts believe China downplays how much it actually spends on defense. This week's NPC meeting will also formalize Mr. Xi's leadership of the country, as he will be elected president of China and head of the armed forces. In New York, nations have reached a historic agreement to protect the world's oceans following 10 years of negotiations. The agreement reached on Saturday at the UN headquarters, known as High Seas Treaty, aims to place 30% of the seas into protected areas by the year 2030 to safeguard and recuperate marine nature. The negotiations had been held up for years over disagreements on funding and fishing rights. The last international agreement on ocean protection was signed 40 years ago in 1982, called the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Given the limited time available, it is impossible to properly review the draft we have just received. Large parts of this text are very much new to our delegation and represent parts of deals in which our delegation did not have a chance to participate. We're not prepared to limit our further engagement to technical amendments and reserve our position broadly in this regard.
Furthermore, we want to express our concern regarding the method of work employed that did not guarantee the equality, equity, the balance, and transparency during this process, with multiple parallel meetings, making it difficult for small delegations to participate, thus excluding some developing countries.
It appears the Russia-Ukraine conflict isn't showing signs of ending soon, or anytime soon, that is, as hundreds of Russian troops have been on guard over a vast Soviet-era ammunition depot in Moldova's breakaway region of Transnistria, causing more tension. While the region of Transnistria, which is under pro-Russian separatists, has for years been under scrutiny by world powers, even since the outbreak of the war in Moldova in early 1990s.
In the past few weeks, accusations have flown between Russia, Ukraine and Moldova over alleged plots to destabilize Moldova and warnings about the potential of conflict to erupt again. Moldova's Prime Minister Dorin Risian says Russian troops should be expelled from the region amid warnings from President Maia Sandu that Moscow is planning to topple her pro-Western government. Meanwhile, Russia has been talking up the threat of a false flag attack by Ukrainian forces, warning that any attack on its troop in Transnistria region will be seen as an attack on Russia itself. Many Western analysts point out that Transnistria region could provide Russia another entry point into Ukraine, forcing Ukrainian troops away from other areas of fighting. Transnistria is an area controlled by pro-Russian separatists since Moldova's civil war in 1992 and has been closely watched globally. This is a tiny Moldovan enclave jammed up against Transnistrian territory and separated from the rest of Moldova by the river Dniester. Many of the older men here fought pro-Russian separatists for this land 30 years ago. They're wondering now if they'll have to fight here again. Last Friday, veterans of that conflict gathered in Molovata Nua for an annual pilgrimage to honor those who died. A short drive beyond the checkpoint heading in brambles by the side of the road is the first stop on the pilgrimage. It marks the spot 31 years ago, where a local mayor was killed. But loyalists here, as in the rest of Moldova, are complicated by history, geography and economics. In the years since they fought the pro-Russian separatists, their children have grown up alongside Russian soldiers, Russian language and Russian economic support.
In North Africa, thousands of Tunisians have gathered in central Tunis in defiance of an official ban on their protest against President Kais Saied, calling for him to release detained critics and retract his controversial remarks on migrants. Demonstrators displayed placards today showing "Stop Racism and Xenophobia" and "No to Hate Speech and Discrimination" to show their displeasure over the wave of violence and discrimination against black Africans. President Saied recently blamed illegal immigrants from sub-Saharan Africa for violence and crime and said there was a plot to change the demographic composition of Tunisia. The Confederation of African Football has appointed Libyan official Abdulrazak Ahmed as referee for Monday's Africa Under-20 Nations Cup clash between Nigeria and the Gambia at the Cairo International Stadium. The Gambia dismantled South Sudan 5-0 at the Haras El Hadud Stadium in Alexandria to pick one of Africa's tickets to the FIFA Under-20 World Cup finals in Indonesia, and is one of only 2 teams to have won all their matches at the ongoing tournament in Egypt. In their 4 matches so far at the tournament, the Flying Eagles have won 3 games and lost 1, and have scored 4 goals and conceded 1. Coach Ladan Bosso is, however, not fazed by the credentials of the opposition and says he's confident the Flying Eagles will triumph against the young Scorpions. In the English Premier League, Cody Gakpo, Darwin Núñez and Mohamed Salah all scored twice as Liverpool FC shrugged off a season of frustration to thrash fierce rivals Manchester United 7-0 at Anfield today. Jurgen Klopp's men set a new record margin of victory in the clash between English football's 2 most successful clubs. While Eric Ten Hag's side United had come into the game on an 11-game unbeaten run and fresh from ending their 6-year trophy drought, but were completely overwhelmed, conceding 6 second-half goals amid a raucous atmosphere on a never-to-be-forgotten night for Liverpool fans. Earlier, Brennan Johnson struck twice to earn Nottingham Forest a vital 2-2 draw against fellow strugglers Everton in the battle for survival. In motorsports, Max Verstappen and Red Bull have made a dream start to the Formula One season, with a dominant 1-2 in Bahrain earlier today, while Fernando Alonso joined the party with a podium on his Aston Martin debut. Mexican Sergio Perez finished runner-up, a distant 11.9 seconds behind his double world champion teammate, as Red Bull celebrated their 10th win in 12 races, stretching back to last July. Verstappen cruised on untroubled from pole position, and it was the first time he had won in Bahrain and the first time he had triumphed in a Formula One opener.
Yeah, very lovely that. Really good result. Yeah, we had good race pace. Very happy with that. Thank you, guys.
Yes. So what do you have done, guys? What do you have done?
Where I basically made my gap, and from there onwards it was all about just looking after the tires, because you never really know what's going to happen later on in the race. So we just wanted to make sure that we had the right tires and in good condition as well. So yeah, of course, very happy to finally also win here in Bahrain.
Yeah, it's a great start. I mean, when we look back at last year, how we started here, it's really nice. It's a nice comeback as a team. You know, we worked really hard over the winter. So it's great to see all the boys enjoying the first race. And yeah, we have a strong package.
It was great weekend, and yeah, finishing the podium in the first race of the year. This is just amazing, you know, what Aston Martin did over the winter to have the second best car on race 1. This is just unreal.
Jon Jones says he is happy and humbled after he scored a sensational first-round submission win over top-ranked Cyril Gane to claim the vacant UFC heavyweight title at UFC 285, restaking his claim to be the greatest fighter of all time. The former light heavyweight champion, who last fought in 2020, moved up a division for his heavyweight debut against Gane and needed less than 3 minutes to become the 8th fighter in UFC history to win titles in 2 divisions. And the main news again. The President-elect Bola Tinubu today visited the Oba of Lagos, Rilwan Akiolu, in his first visit to the state after his victory at the poll. Well, the President-elect also reaffirmed his promise not to disappoint Nigerians. We also told you that the United States ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, said the 2023 presidential election did not meet the expectations of Nigerians, urging INEC to review and address possible challenges ahead of the governorship and Houses of Assembly elections. And China announced plans to boost military spending in the year 2023 while warning of escalating threats. That's the news at 10. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. From all of us here, it's good night and stay safe.